Please do not trade in or sell your original Nintendo Switch to get a Switch 2. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why, and by the end of the video, you can make the decision for yourself. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, what the heck would I need a Nintendo Switch 1 if I'm going to get a Nintendo Switch 2 and the Switch 2 has backwards compatibility with Switch 1 games? I can trade in my original Switch, get some trade-in credit, or just sell it on something like Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Mercari and put that towards the new Nintendo Switch 2. And on paper, that sounds great. But there's a few things you might not know about, and that's what this video is about today. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching. If you like content like this, if you like gaming news, talking head videos, something you could put on in the car and just kind of listen to while you're driving or hanging out, this might be the channel for you. So please consider hitting that subscribe button and liking the video. But let's get right into the discussion, because I don't want to tell you what to do with your Switch, and I'm not going to. But I'm hoping by the end of the video, you are enlightened a little bit more and you can make that decision for yourself, because I truly think it's not worth trading in your original Switch for a Nintendo Switch 2. Now, we all know that the Nintendo Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the original Switch games, and that sounds great. I love backwards compatibility. I mean, I thought it was so awesome that I could play my full PlayStation 1 library on my PlayStation 2, and then eventually getting a PlayStation 3, and I could play PS1, PS2, and PS3 games on it. You could play GameCube games on the Wii. You could play Wii games on the Wii U. Backwards compatibility is awesome, and I definitely appreciate the feature when it's added into a new console. But the problem is, with the Nintendo Switch 2, the backwards compatibility feature isn't so cut and dry, and I don't think most people or everyday consumers know what they're getting into if they were to sell their original Nintendo Switch. So to my knowledge, the Nintendo Switch 2 uses kind of like half hardware and half emulation to basically make it backwards compatible with the Nintendo Switch 1 library. But the problem is not every single game that you're going to want to play is going to work on the Nintendo Switch 2. And even though right now the title list of games that aren't compatible is small, it's growing, and it will continue to grow over time. Now, sure, most of these games will fire up and run, but what you might not know is, even if the game is actually turning on or running on your Switch 2, it doesn't mean that you're not going to run into a bunch of issues or bugs or errors while you're playing the game. So the original Nintendo Switch has a digital library on the Nintendo Store of over 15,000 games. Now, I don't know how many physical games are actually on the console, but I'm sure it's a lot. And because the Nintendo Switch 2 is in its infancy, I can only see compatibility issues growing and expanding over time as more games get played. And even if your game that you love isn't on the compatibility issues list now, it doesn't mean it couldn't be on there tomorrow. And that's also not to say that over time, Nintendo will learn about these bugs or these glitches or these issues with compatibility and fix it for certain titles, but we don't know how long that will take, and we don't know exactly what games are going to start popping up on the list over time. And it would really suck if you sold your Nintendo Switch or traded it in towards a Switch 2 just to find out that some of your favorite games in your library won't run on the thing, or if it does run, it runs like crap. And let's be completely honest, if you were to sell your Nintendo Switch, whether you have an OLED model like I do, I have the Tears of the Kingdom model right here. I also have a day one Switch. I have 2 Switch Lites, actually 3 Switch Lites, because I have the Zelda one. Everybody in my family in this house has a Switch. And it would really suck to find out that our large list of games, physical and digital, started having issues on the console, and it makes the games almost unplayable. So for me personally, if you were to trade it in or to sell it, whether it's on Facebook Marketplace or trading it into a store like GameStop, you're really not going to get as much money as you think. And in the grand scheme of things, is it really worth you selling? Because let's be completely honest, depending on what model of Switch you have, you might get anywhere from 80 bucks for like a Switch Lite, all the way up to maybe 150 for an OLED or a day one Switch or Model 1, whatever you want to call it. And you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it to you? Is it really going to knock off that much money off the purchase of a Switch 2? And to some people, it is a lot of money, and you know, it will definitely help them out when it comes to getting the new console. But then at the same time, over time, if there are new issues that are becoming apparent for a bunch of Switch 1 games, is it really worth it to get rid of it and not have it as an option to play some of your favorite games in your library? Now we're going to jump on over to Nintendo Life and kind of just breeze through the website. I will leave the compatibility issues list or whatever you want to call it, this article from Nintendo Life down in the description below. So you can kind of take a look and see if any of the games that you like are on this list, whether they don't run at all or if they're having issues or bugs. And again, guys, the library is so massive and the Switch 2 just came out. As these games get played, more issues and bugs will become apparent and will come to light. So I just wouldn't rush into trading in or selling your Switch 1 just yet. Now, if the Switch has been out for a while and you feel like, yeah, well, I don't really need it, I haven't had any issues with any of the games in my library, then by all means, and I would never tell you what to do with your console, but I'm just saying at least give it some thought before you run on over to GameStop or sell it on Facebook Marketplace, because you could find out that one of your favorite games just doesn't work or it runs like crap, and then you're kind of just stuck. And then you'll either sell the game or wait for Nintendo to patch it and fix it, and whenever that's going to be. And again, with a library of over 15,000 games digitally, who knows how many games are going to have issues running on the Switch 2. I definitely feel like the PlayStation 5 did things right. And I'm not a PlayStation fanboy. I'm not a Nintendo fanboy or an Xbox or PC gaming. I love them all. But with the PlayStation 5, the one thing that I love and I kind of expected with the Switch 2, and is the more I play it and the more I test it out, I'll be able to give you a definitive answer in the future, is I love the fact that like 99% of my PlayStation 4 library, I can literally pop the disc in or load the game up digitally and it just works and it runs better than it did on the PlayStation 4, whether it's faster load times or better frame rates. I was kind of expecting that with the Switch 2, and maybe I'm confused and you can let me know down in the comments, but I honestly thought I could just pop in a Switch 1 cartridge and because of the more powerful hardware, I would just naturally get better frame rates. But then Nintendo's doing things like, well, if you pay extra, you can get 4K 60 frames on like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. So it's not just natively unlocked. So I don't really know how that works, because if you're telling me with these games I have to pay for that frame rate increase or that and resolution increase, does that mean that the Switch 2 playing my Switch 1 games does absolutely nothing? I would imagine that the load times will still be faster, right? Because you have a faster hard drive in the Switch 2 than the Switch 1. But with the more powerful hardware, you would just kind of expect that by putting a game into the console, it would just naturally run smoother. But again, I'm confused on that, because when you look at something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, you have to pay for that feature. So what's the deal here? I really am just not quite understanding. And again, let me know down in the comments. And the prime example I have for this is I really wanted to get Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It's a Dynasty Warriors with a Zelda skin over the top of it, because I loved the first Hyrule Warriors, and the definitive edition runs really well on the Switch 1, and it should, because it was a Wii U game that was ported over. But Age of Calamity, the frame rate is god awful. And again, I'll have to do some testing to see if just by putting it in a Switch 2, will the more powerful hardware give me better frame rates to where it's more playable? I don't know. Or features like that locked behind a paywall. I know with the Xbox Series X, when you're going to get the increased frame rate and resolution, it actually says it on the game itself, like whether it's on Game Pass or whatever, there will be a little icon down in the lower right hand corner that lets you know, hey, this thing has been increased, with better frame rates and better resolution. I don't really know with Nintendo if the Switch 2 just runs your games better or not. I'm not really sure. And so for me, it's a bit confusing. So I will jump on over to this article from Nintendo Life and kind of, breeze through the list. Again, I will leave it down in the description below so you can take a look to see if one of your favorite games made the list, unfortunately. And again, guys, they will be adding more to the list over time. I guarantee it. With a library that large, we're going to find more bugs across more games. So let's jump on over to Nintendo Life and just take a look at the article real quick. All right, so this is the Nintendo Life article. It says Nintendo Switch 2 backwards compatible guide. What Switch games can't be played? So when you scroll through, it'll tell you Nintendo Switch 2 backwards compatibility. Can it play Switch 1 games? Well, it can, and we know that. But it has separate little lists here of games that have issues or just don't run at all. So like this one right here says Switch 1 games with startup and progression issues on Switch 2. And it's quite a list already, you guys. Games like Guilty Gear, Hitman 3, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, which is a more modern or relevant title that just came out not that long ago. Near Automata, Plants vs. Zombies, River City Girls Zero, South Park: The Fractured Butthole. You have games like what else do we got? Wolfenstein 2. Yeah, I mean there's quite a bit that have issues right out of the gate. The list is kind of long. Overwatch 2. Yeah, Raiden 3, Raiden 4. It's quite a few, and this is just the games that apparently have startup and progression issues on the Switch. And then you go on down and you scroll to the next set, Switch 1 games with compatibility issues on Switch 2. And you have a much shorter list, but it's still there, like Tomb Raider 1 and 3 remastered starring Lara Croft, Street Fighter the 30th Anniversary Collection. It's awesome collection, by the way. It's a very good game with a lot of great fighting games from Capcom. But then you have the Capcom Fighting Collection 2. This game just came out, and it has apparently compatibility issues. Switch 1 games that just can't be played on the Switch 2, which is Nico Nico, Abima. Oh, I guess, what are these? Nintendo Labo, Inky Pen. I mean, oh, these are apps. These are apps that don't work with the Nintendo Switch 2. So I guess you can't use Crunchyroll. So sorry, anime fans. That kind of sucks. Hopefully that gets patched. I'd imagine it will, but when? Who knows? Hulu doesn't work on the Switch 2. Switch 1 games with fixes for Switch 2. So Nintendo has been working to resolve backwards compatibility issues in the run-up to the console's release, and now it's out in the wild. A number of games now have patches or fixes to allow them to run on the new console. So these are the ones they've fixed so far, and look how big that list is. So there were even more that had issues that were popping up that they were able to fix. So the reality is, and we're going to jump back on over to this screen right here so I can talk to you a little bit more. The reality is there are games being added to this list with issues all the time, and there will be for the foreseeable future, again, with a library so large. And they are constantly also fixing these issues as well. But for me personally, my word of advice to you, and you don't have to listen, it's totally fine. You can do what you want with your console. I would wait. I would hang on to your Switch consoles and not trade them in or sell them towards the Switch 2. Because, again, you don't want to find out that one of your favorite games or your children's favorite games do not work on the console and it is unplayable. And then you are kind of stuck until they fix it, or you just sell the game and make the money from it and you move on with your life. So I just wanted to touch base on that. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that because I felt like, people that actually watch gaming news and are really involved in it probably already knew this. But, everyday people that are looking to buy a Switch 2 for themselves or for their families, they might not know all of this and they might just see that it's backwards compatible and they might think, well, what the heck do I need a Switch 1 for anymore? I could sell it and make a little money on it and put it towards the new console. But it's not so cut and dry as you can see here. Again, I will leave this article's link down in the description. There are other articles online that might have even more games than this on it. You just have to kind of do your own research. But guys, I really don't think selling your Switch 1 for like $100 is really worth it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Are you going to keep your Switch consoles or are you going to trade them in? Have you already sold them for the Switch 2? And what do you think about this compatibility issues? Because honestly, when you look at other consoles in history, I don't really recall them having issues like this with compatibility, at least not to this extent when it comes to backwards compatibility. Like I said, the PS5 has been great for me. It's a very, 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 very small list of PlayStation 4 games that just won't work on the console. And every game in my library that I've thrown in there just runs better and it works no problem. So I really hope Nintendo figures this out. But again, the library is massive, so who knows when that's going to be. But so far, guys, honestly, I'm loving my Switch 2. I've been playing Mario Kart World with my wife and my daughter, and I've been really enjoying the new Rune Factory game. I'm looking forward to Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I'm actually going to be working on a video here in the near future where we talk about the different webcam options that you can use for your Switch 2, whether it is the Hori Piranha Plant camera or the base Nintendo Switch 2 camera or your own personal webcam. Because believe it or not, Surprisingly, Nintendo is allowing you to use your own personal webcam for the Switch too. But that's another discussion for another day. But thank you all so much for watching. Again, if you enjoy video game content, if you enjoy Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, PC gaming, modern news, retro gaming, anything gaming related, live streams or whatever, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I really appreciate it and it means the world to me. Leave a comment, hit that notification bell, like the video and all that good stuff. It helps the channel out a ton. And until next time, guys, happy hunting.